First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem HaKakodash. Yahweh is to this world ignorantly calls God. Yahushua is to this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Bahashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kudash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. In today's video, I wanted to go into how the U.S. will send troops over there to Iran. Okay, and this is a post by the brother Remnant Saved 144, and it says, just in, Pentagon officials have made detailed preparations for deploying U.S. ground forces into Iran, CBS. And I went on Google, put the same thing. This is from Reuters one day ago. It says U.S. weighs military reinforcements as Iran war enters possible new phase. Trump weighing several options for U.S. troops inside Iran. Trump administration making heavy preparations for potential use of ground troops. Okay, and we've been telling you people how these things are going to happen. Okay, how the U.S. Army will go fight over there in the so-called Middle East because it is Bible prophecy. Okay, so when you go into Joel, the 2nd chapter, it's one of the main key points when it talks about it. Joel chapter 2 and verse 20. Joel chapter 2 and verse 20 says, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. Right, so the Lord is going to remove this northern army, North American army, to a land barren and desolate, aka those deserts over there in the east, aka Saudi Arabia, okay, that region. Which if you look at a map, okay, when it says right here, if you look at this map, it says with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. Right, so his face is going to be toward the east sea, which is that Persian Gulf, and his utmost part, right, going into his back part, is going to be towards the other sea, which is the Red Sea. And that's talking about the Saudi Arabia region. Okay, this is where World War III is going to take place. And the Northern Army will be sent over there. Okay, so what we're seeing right now with all these news, these articles, these headlines, this is a foreshadowing. This is the beginning of what the prophecies talked about. Right, military.com, U.S. sends another 2,500 Marines to Iran as ground option emerges in war. Right, Iran threatens world tourist sites as more Marines deployed. So we're seeing how Yahushua talked about how, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. But it says, see that ye be not troubled, for these are the beginning. This is just the beginning. Congress won't be able to avoid the Iran war much longer. So get right, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is turning things up. So touching on the war aspect, okay, yeah, they're gonna, have a military draft, but these men are not gonna go fight that war. Okay, it literally says in Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 30, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds, their might hath failed, they have become as women, they have burned her dwelling places, her bars are broken. Right, so these men are not going to go fight that war, okay, because they're realizing that this war is a banquet's war, okay, it's a banker's war, it's a war of the elites. It doesn't benefit them. The government doesn't have the interests of the masses. So they're going to remain in their holds. They're going to stay here in America. Okay, that patriotism, that, mentality of the white picket fence with the green grass, okay, working and, having your pension, all that is gone. These people don't believe in this place no more. So this is ultimately why the U.S. Army is going to have to go to drastic measures to get people. right? They started talking about how from 18 years old to 26 years old, and now they're talking about how, even drafting women. All right, let's search that up. U.S. draft women. You got to put it news. Right, so it says, who can be drafted? Selective service. Disqualifications. Who can be drafted? The women have to sign up for selective service. And it's not popping up, what I was seeing, but it's going to get to a point where they're going to draft anyone they can. And it's crazy because, a lot of these veterans, they have so much PTSD that they have to be in these wars in order to operate. For example, I was doing my taxes today, and I was talking to this one Cuban, and he said that, he served in the Iraq war, for the U.S. government. And he was telling me, I was asking him, so what do you think about this whole thing with Iran? And he literally told me, hey, I wish I was over there. I wish they would call me up to go over there. And I'm like, why? He's like, the adrenaline, man. He's like, the adrenaline of just doing all that adrenaline everywhere. And it just made me realize that there's people out here, that the Most High has ordained to go fight. Okay, to fulfill those prophecies. Right? Those spirits created for vengeance, how it's in their mind to do those things. And I couldn't understand how no matter what I tell that guy, he was not going to change his mind. His mind was on war, on fighting. Right, which the scriptures talk about that, how, these fighters, once they see Yahushua comes back, they're not going to want to fight him. But the Lord's going to put it in their spirit to still fight. Right, 2 Ezra chapter 13 and verse 5, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right, going into Yahushua. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Right, so he, flew upon his vehicle. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Right, so these armies are going to be scared to fight him, but they're still going to do it, because the Lord's going to put the spirit inside of them. It says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Right, so going into, the spiritual destruction that the Lord is going to take place. Right, so that's why if you go fight, World War III, if you go over to the east, you're not going to come back alive, because, everybody that goes is going to have to come against the Messiah, which it really talks about how, while they're fighting, they're going to come together to come against him. Right, you can read that in verse 33. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting, but he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion. Right, so here it is, Americans versus Russians. But when they see the Messiah come back, they're all going to get together to come against him. But he's just going to smoke them in an instant. So these are the prophecies of what will happen, and we're seeing the beginning of it. I'll leave it there. Hopefully this is edifying. With that, I give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem HaKakodash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of great millstone that taught me his truth. Shalom, Tillah, Shalom.